In this video, I will show how to create a mastering setup in Reaper. At the heart of this setup, we have our SM Switcher plugin and a few custom scripts. We released the plugin earlier this year, and we thought it would be good to make a tutorial about it. First, I will demonstrate the setup and how to use it, and in the second part, I will show how to install and set everything up. The main purpose of this setup is to make it easy to tweak the sound of your master, while also being able to switch over to the unprocessed mix with automatic loudness matching. This is very helpful for avoiding loudness bias and making sure that you are going in the right direction with the sound. The goal is to make it easier to practice your mastering skills, and it is primarily made for educational use. And together with the SM Switcher, there is also a starter pack for Reaper that includes a few custom scripts and a project template. In this template, there are two tracks. The first track is where the master processing is done, and on the second track you can keep a copy of the unprocessed mix. And these two tracks are then routed to the SM Switcher plugin, where you can select which one of them you want to listen to. So you can hear the master and you can hear the original mix just by clicking these buttons. So here I have added some processing to this mix, a bit of EQ and a bit of level in a limiter, just so that there is a difference between the master and the original. And the SM Switcher can then compensate for this loudness difference so that I can compare the master and the mix at the same loudness. The workflow for using the SM Switcher is very simple. First, you make sure that the ALM button is enabled. Then you select input 1 and press play. And now you move the trim slider so that the yellow bars in the meter lands somewhere in the green area in the meter here. If it's outside, then the area will turn red, but we want it to be in the green. Because now the automatic loudness matching is working properly, and we can select which one we want to listen to without any jumps in loudness. The plugin will take care of that. And that's pretty much how you use this plugin. And if there should be a big difference in loudness between the master and the original mix, then you can also adjust the trim on the first input. You can lower that in that case. And in order to create some headroom for this loudness matching, then there is also an output level that will attenuate the output from the plugin, because without that, then the gain that is added to the original mix may cause the output to clip. And if that would happen, we can look at how that looks, then the output level will flash red. So if you see this, then you need to decrease the output level so that the output doesn't clip. But the default setting of -8 dB will be fine for most cases. And you can also set up keyboard shortcuts that make it easy to select what you want to listen to. So here I have mapped the functions of the switcher to keyboard shortcuts so that I can easily switch between the master and the original using the keyboard. And I can also do things like listening in mono and listening to the side signal, flipping the left and right channels, or soloing each of the speakers. And these keyboard shortcuts are really useful to have when working on a master and finding the right sound, and then you can quickly reference how the mix sounds just by pressing a key on your keyboard. So that's a really nice feature. So when starting a new project, I would simply use the start template, which have these channels set up, and then I would import a mix onto the master track and copy it to the original mix track, and then add some processing to the item itself. Reaper has a really nice feature called Take Effects that lets you add plugins directly onto an audio clip, onto an item. And that's really useful if you are mastering more than one song in the same project, because then each song can have different processing. So I could, for example, add an EQ and a limiter, and then do the processing that I would want to do, maybe some EQ and a bit of limiting. That's not the focus of this video, but you get the point. So this is the basic workflow when using the SM switcher and the starter pack for Reaper. And we will do more videos where we go more into details of certain aspects of the workflow, but this is more of an overview on how you can use this setup. So now let's have a look at how to set everything up. So the first thing to do is to install the SM switcher plugin. There's a link in the description where you can get it, and we suggest that you start with the demo version to make sure that you get everything working before you buy it. And to install it, you just run the package installer and follow the instructions, just as you would do with any plugin. I have already installed it, so I will not continue with that. And then you have the other file, which is the starter pack for Reaper. This is a zip file, and the first thing to do is to unpack it. And then you will get a folder containing 2 files. There's a config file for Reaper, and there's also the manual with installation instructions. So I will pretty much show you what this says now. And what we will do now is that we will import this file into Reaper, because in this file there are a few custom scripts and also a project template and a few other things. So what we will do is just take this file and drag and drop it onto Reaper. And then Reaper will ask if you want to import this configuration, and that is exactly what we want to do. So I will press OK. So these are the files that will be added to the Reaper installation. It says no change here, but for you it will probably say create, because the files will be added. I have already added these, so there will be no change. I will press import, and then Reaper will start again, and now we will have some new scripts. So now we're done with that window. Now there are a few things to set up. First, we will need to open the action window and let Reaper know that there are new scripts installed. And in order to do that, you press key map, import shortcuts, custom actions, import all sections. That's the option at the top of this menu. And then you select the Mastering Explained Starter Pack Import Scripts Reaper key map. That's a long word. So select that one, press open. And this will make these new scripts appear in this list. And we will get back to how we add the keyboard shortcuts for these scripts, because first we will add the switcher plugin to the monitoring chain. So this is the monitoring FX chain, and this is a very useful feature in Reaper, because this is an effect chain that only affects the things going out to your audio card, to your audio interface. So anything that you add to this chain will only affect what you hear, but it will not affect anything that will be rendered or exported from inside Reaper. So it's perfect for these kinds of plugins that should only affect your monitoring. So here is the place where we want to add the switcher plugin. So I will do that. I will add the SM switcher. So this is a plugin that has 4 inputs and 2 outputs. And that is because it has 2 stereo inputs and 1 stereo output. So if I press this button, then I will get the plugin pin window where we can set how the signal should be routed into the plugin. And in the default setting that we can see here, then the first 2 channels are routed to the main input, and this will be what you hear when the first button is pressed. And the 3rd and 4th channels are routed to input 2, left and right. And this is what will be heard when we press the 2nd button. And in order to see all these 4 inputs, then the number of track channels need to be at least 4. Even if your audio interface only have 2 outputs, you can still have more than 2 tracks inside the monitoring FX chain. So make sure that this is set to at least 4 channels. And if you want to use any other channels for this rather than 3 or 4, then there is a section in the manual for the SM switcher on how you can route that. Okay, so the next thing I want to show is how you can control this using keyboard shortcuts. And to do that, you can set these shortcuts in the Actions window. Here you have a few scripts that will control the SM switcher. So if I, for example, run this toggle mono script, then it will toggle the mono switch on the switcher. So by binding these scripts to keyboard shortcuts, then I can control the switcher using my keyboard. You can choose whatever shortcuts you want, whatever feels natural for you. And one tip when adding these shortcuts is to set the scope to global plus text fields, because then the keyboard shortcuts will override pretty much anything that happens in Reaper. And that makes sure that whenever you press these keyboard shortcuts, then that will trigger these actions. And that's really useful, especially when you're tweaking plugin settings and things like that. Then the global shortcuts will make sure that these keyboard commands will always control the switcher, as long as you are inside Reaper. So, and the last thing I wanted to talk about is where to add meters to this setup. The best place to add meters is in the monitor effect chain. So let's add a VU meter, a goniometer, and a loudness meter. These are the kinds of meters that I prefer to have in front of me, but you may have other preferences. But this is where you add them, and you need to have them before the switcher, because the switcher is doing things with the level. We have an output level of -8, for example, and that will offset the metering by 8 dBs. So in order to avoid that, we will add the meters before the switcher. And another thing to note is that some meters may have more than one stereo input and output. For example, a loudness meter is often made to be able to measure surround sound or multi-channel sound of some kinds. But in this case, we just want to measure the stereo signal, so I need to disable the third and fourth input. Otherwise, it will make a measurement of both the mastered version and the original mix, using the original mix as surround channels. So that could be something that you might need to address as well if you're using meters that can measure more than only stereo. And then it's mainly a matter of placing these meters so that they are where you want to have them. So that's it for this video. You can find the SM Switcher among our other resources if you want to check it out. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.